Classic Hashtags. Welcome back to Fast Market. Alex Coffey and Kevin Hinks now joined by the VP of Research at LikeFlow.com, Megan Brantley, here on this Friday morning as we bleed into the afternoon hours. Happy Friday to you, Megan. Let's talk social media. Let's talk some Meta platforms. When we're looking at this space, the dollars that are made are largely in this digital ad kind of realm that they all operate in. How is this space shaping up based off of your data and what you're tracking?
Yeah, so whenever we look at a name like Meta, I think 98% of its revenue, or just over 98%, is generated by advertising. And so for us, where we like to look is we like to say, okay, where consumers or where advertisers visiting, where are they increasing their ad spend and things of this nature. And I think that there are three big takeaways that we have whenever we look at ad spend and Meta specifically. The first is that the anticipated increase in ad spending in 2025 from businesses looks strongest in social versus other segments that we're monitoring. So in a survey, they found that 80% of businesses plan to increase their ad spend in social media in 2025, and that 12% of those businesses plan to increase that ad spend by 20% or more. So I think that this sets a nice tailwind heading into the coming year. And then whenever we look at specifically where consumers or how much money they're spending whenever they're making purchases, we see Instagram commands a really nice chunk of change whenever you talk about, these big purchases or even a large amount of small purchases. So people who are actually shopping on these platforms. And so I think Instagram has a bit of an edge here versus other social media platforms that we could look at. And so that's something positive that Meta has going for it. But then the last little bit of data that we have is when we look at visits to its ad platform site specifically. So this could be indicative of attracting new advertisers to its site. We see a bit of a slowdown for Meta specifically in Facebook and Instagram versus some other new players. I don't think that this is surprising because we would expect to see some momentum out of Reddit, out of Snapchat that are just getting those ad engines running. But it is something to keep in mind that while we don't expect a negative number when it comes to that advertising growth, we might expect a bit of a slowdown just comparatively because Meta had such a first mover advantage.
Megan, I think the evolution of the targeted advertising that Meta platforms, Instagram, and frankly other social media sites can do has revolutionized advertising. I mean, everyone out there watching this show, if you think about the level of targeted advertising that is now relative to your life, that you look at and say, because I hit on something else, because I have interest, that the ability to target that advertising is just that's why people are moving towards advertising on these spaces and away from linear TV. There's no more or virtually no misses anymore, is there, Megan? And that ability for advertisers to feel confident that their advertisements are going to hit the target that they're aiming for is just unprecedented, and it's changed the way this game is played. And if you're linear TV, God help you, because this area of advertising just keeps getting better and better, Megan.
Yeah, it's like, there's no longer a need to do this massive blanket advertising buy to maybe hit a few fish in your target bucket. Now you can really hone in on exactly the consumer that you're looking for, that has clicked on and or researched your product before, and target that person that's likely to buy. I think another thing that these social sites, especially Meta, have is just a vast expanse of social connections. I think there are 3.2 billion users of one of Meta's apps daily. That's insane. And so that kind of social overlay really allows for precise targeting of, maybe your friend recently bought this and Meta knows that, and they know that you have a strong social tie to this friend because of your engagement on social media. It makes sense that you would be served an ad for something that your friends are buying. And so I think that this certainly explains this increase in advertising spend that we're watching across social. And that's another area that Meta has been trying to improve for advertisers. I think on its last report, it talked about it had over 1 million advertisers who utilize one of its generative AI ad tools. And so one thing it's doing is not only providing effective advertising, but it's kind of lessening the burden on the advertisers from a creative perspective and a targeting perspective and taking care of that. And so I think that that's something to watch moving forward. This is an area where Meta is investing. I know it talked about its CapEx spend increasing next year and really focusing on the AI capabilities. And that's not just a lot of that has to do with how well it's targeting those advertising placements.
It's a fascinating, ever-changing landscape of digital advertisement and social media. Megan, appreciate you trying to make some sense of it for us here on this Friday. We wish you a great weekend and look forward to talking to you again soon. The VP of Research at LikeFolio.com, Megan Brantley.